Good morning. This is Julie. You may have seen my video when I made some mince pies the other day. I did mention I'd be making some sausage rolls, and that's what I'll be doing today. However, a certain person has decided to barge in on my sausage roll making work today, and he's decided that he could potentially make something better. So here he is.
Well, it's not that, it's just that we had a conversation and I said to Julie, I think if Italians were to make sausage rolls, they would be the best sausage rolls in the world. She disagreed, so we had this debate, so we decided that today we will be making the British sausage rolls with the Christmas twist that Julie will be doing, and after that I will come along and I'll do my own Italian, actually Sicilianized recipe for sausage rolls which I've put together. But also, tomorrow is Thanksgiving in the States, and we've got quite a large number of people following us from the state, and to honor that we thought it would be a good idea to also do a recipe for the Americans. So the third part of this video will be me cooking also some sausage rolls for our friends over the pond.
Just be grateful that we're not doing our first idea, which is we were both going to squeeze on here together and try and cook at the same time, and that was just not going to work. So we're going to go one at a time. Ladies first. Ladies first.
So I'll move out of the way and I'll be in charge of the camera for a little while.
First things first, I've just washed my hands with nice cold water, but they do need to be dry, so dry them well. And we will start with rough puff pastry. It takes a little while to prepare because you have to pop it in the fridge, but it will make lovely flaky pastry for the sausage rolls. First of all, we take some plain flour. This is actually strong plain flour that you could use for pizzas or bread, that's fine. We've also got some butter, which I will cut into small cubes, and some water, and that is literally all you need for the rough puff pastry. I've sifted the plain flour into a bowl, and I'm adding half a teaspoon of salt. Then we take the butter, room temperature butter if you can, and you need to chop it into quite small little chunks, so this will just take me a moment. This is where it gets messy. If you saw me doing this on the video for the mince pies, I actually made the pastry in a processor. However, this time I'm choosing to make it by hand. I just think it's easier because I'd like to be able to see the lumps of butter in the flour and in the mix in the dough. And if you put it in a processor, the temptation is to let it go mad and then you'll actually just bind it all together. So you can do it like this. Try in a processor if you prefer, but just make sure you don't overdo it. So try and see that you can see the actual lumps of butter in it. Okay, final piece. Right, I'll give it a little stir. Nice clean hands. And the idea is that you gently squeeze the butter between your fingers so it becomes small pieces. Can you see it starting to break up? As you do this, the flour will combine with the butter. When I was at school, we had cooking lessons, and I was always told to lift it up and work it between your fingers. The idea is not in the palms of your hands, because that's where your hands are the warmest. As you can see from the bowl now, it's broken up nicely, but you can still find lumps of butter in it. If you were making other types of pastry, you would just keep doing this until such a time it resembled breadcrumbs, but this is how I want this to look. Now next, we make a well in the bottom of the bowl, and I'm going to add about 2/3 of my water mix. Then using my hands, it's time to dig in and bind it together into a ball. This is a messy job, but it's the bit I like. Okay, so it's formed a nice ball now, washed my hands, and I'll pop some cling film on top, and then we pop it in the fridge for 20 minutes.
In the meantime, while Julie waits her 20 minutes, I'll bring in my Sicilian station where I've got all of my ingredients set out and ready. But I will not bore you with the ingredients, I'll tell you one by one. I'll start with the mince, and I'll be using a combination of pork mince and also sausages, and altogether about half a kilo in weight. Nice large bowl, and I'll add my pork mince first. I am complementing the pork mince with sausages because the mix in the sausages is slightly different than the mince. Mince is just minced meat, whereas sausages already have a little salt and some spices, and I think it's going to make my sausage rolls even better.
Do I need to point out that that's not the way you make sausage rolls? In the UK we use sausage meat, which is basically what is inside sausages.
Yes, but this is not a UK recipe. I'm trying to be polite and amicable, but if you want to have a war about sausage rolls, I'm up for it.
No more required. I'm sure they'll taste lovely.
Anyway, who knew that removing the skin from chipolatas is such a job? And the reason why I'm removing the skin, by the way, is because I want everything to be mushed together, and to have skin inside a sausage roll, I don't think is ideal.
No,
And
I
like
agree.
this, I can just mix everything together, and I get that added flavor I was referring to. And I tend to put everything in my hand and squeeze, and everything comes together beautifully. Perfect. I'll go and wash my hands and I'll be right back. My Sicilian sausage rolls are going to be full of flavor, and Sicilian flavor, of course. And I'll start with some garlic. It is a must if you're doing a Sicilian, anything to do with Sicily in terms of sausage rolls. So off I go. One ingredient that both Julie and I will be using for all three recipes is onion. And these are 3 small onions which we have gently fried on the hob. And I will be pinching a third for my recipe here. Julie will have a third, and then I'll have another third for my Thanksgiving sausage rolls later. Breadcrumbs, I will add 50 grams of dried breadcrumbs. 1 egg next, so I'll break it in. Cheese, I was thinking I could use pecorino or I could use parmesan. I decided to go for parmesan, mostly because it's slightly less aggressive than pecorino, but also there is the added reason that I don't have any pecorino. So parmesan will be, and I've grated it in and off it goes. It is a Sicilianized sausage roll recipe, so parsley goes in as well. Typical Sicilian herb. This is a teaspoon of seeds of fennels, which I crushed earlier using a pestle and mortar. Typical ingredient that goes with sausages in Sicily, and a must in my case, so I'll go in as well. And as you crush it, by the way, the smell that comes up is amazing. It's absolutely beautiful. Just try. 1 teaspoon of oregano to make sure that the Italian flavor stays. And these are chili flakes. It's a half a teaspoon of chili flakes for a little kick. This is a sweet paprika. In it goes.
It does look lovely. Not like any sort of sausage roll mix I've ever seen, but it does look lovely.
Oh, I see. We're beginning to change our mind, are we?
Just a little bit.
This is lemon, and I'm going to be removing the zest from 1 medium-sized lemon, and I'll put it in as well. Olives next. This is a mixture of pitted green and black olives, but you can use just black olives if you like, or just green olives. I like the color, so I use both. But as they're gonna go inside my sausage rolls, I'll make sure that I chop them in little pieces. How fine or chunky you leave them is entirely up to you. Depends how much you like the texture of olives. Of course, if you don't like olives, don't put them in. But like this, in my case, I think it's pretty good actually. I'm happy.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And they can go in with the rest. Another very, very Sicilian ingredient is sun-dried tomatoes. And these are tomatoes which are kept in oil. So I'll just pinch maybe 3, that'll be enough. And like I did with the olives, I'll go along and I'll chop them in little pieces. Little soldiers first, and then I'll go crossways and I'll chop them again. And see all of this oil which has been released by both olives and sun-dried tomatoes? Throw it in. We do not like to waste anything in this house. I've put sausages in there already, which are already salted, so I'm going to be slightly careful with the salt. So I'll just put a pinch, just under half a teaspoon. But I will be a little bit more generous with my pepper.
Good job I filled it up earlier.
Now that is the end of my ingredients for the mix. So the next thing to do is to mix it together. You can use a spoon, you can use a spatula. I'm going to use my hands because I think it's going to be the most efficient way of doing this. Especially as there is the egg in there and the breadcrumbs, and you get to feel all of your ingredients, and you will know that everything is equally mixed together. I know everything is still uncooked, but do believe me, there is a beautiful smell coming up. The combination of the Parmesan cheese with the fennel and the lemon alone is just unbelievable. And that is perfect. As you can see, I have actually managed to give everything the same sort of consistency, so I'm now ready to roll my pastry. And I'm done with the filling, and I will be using puff pastry in my case. But before I continue, 20 minutes is up, so I'll pass you back to Julie, who's going to show you the next step in the recipe.
So I'm back. My pastry is out of the fridge. First thing I will do is pop some flour down on my worktop. Now, this is a slightly fiddly pastry, which is lovely because it makes a lovely flaky sausage roll. However, should you want to buy the ready-made stuff, which a certain young gentleman is using today, then by all means go ahead and do that. But this is the recipe that we use for special occasions such as Christmas. Okay, so I will pop a little flour on my rolling pin, little well at the corner. Grab my pastry together, just grab those little bits and bobs that are left behind and pop it on my surface. What we need to do now is to roll it into a rectangle about 50 by 20. That's what I'm aiming for.
That is centimeters, of course.
Yep, centimetres, sorry. Yeah.
Because you end up with a big.
I think you'll struggle with the quantity of pastry we have.
Yes.
Okay. Generally we do this just so it doesn't get stuck on the worktop. You can always add a little bit more flour, not a problem. And if you zoom in there, Francia, can you see the lumps of butter still visible? So that's what you want. That's a good sign, everybody.
So you want the butter to be lumpy?
Yeah, we want the butter. Yeah, we want to be able to see the butter. They call it like a marbling effect.
Marbling.
You learn something new every day with me, look.
Why is that, Julie?
Because the lumps of butter combined with the folding, which I will now do, will make the pastry flaky because it creates layers.
All right, okay.
If it's all crumbled in too much, you wouldn't get the same effect. Here we go, everybody. Vaguely 50 by 20. Now the idea is that you fold it into by a third and then you bring the other third over. So having folded it like this, I'm now going to turn it round by a quarter turn. Just pop a little flour on top. Make sure your rolling pin is nice and dry. And then I'm going to roll it out a bit more. Like that is fine. And then I will fold it into 2/3, just like before. And now this I will pop in the fridge, back in my bowl in the fridge for another 20 minutes. And now back to Tortellino, who's going to continue with his Sicilian sausage rolls.
I don't know why she rolled her eyes, but I am back. And I will be using puff pastries, I think I said that before. And this is actually from the freezer. I cooked the other day a strudel and I used puff pastry. And I did say that we find things sometimes that are reduced, cheap. And if they can be frozen, we buy, and incredibly economical and handy. So here it is. The reason why I've decided to go for the puff pastry, by the way, is to have a variety. So Julie is using the rough puff pastry recipe, whereas I'm using the puff pastry, which is also very quick. It's a slightly easier option, of course.
Particularly compared to the rough puff I'm making at the moment, but we'll see when the,
Yes.
what is it they say, the proof of the pudding is in the eating.
In the eating. Great, so I'm taking advantage of the worktop, which is already covered in flour from Julie earlier, and I'll lay it down. I mentioned earlier that we will be doing a Thanksgiving batch of sausage rolls. We have a plan for that, and the idea is that we will be doing a small batch of Thanksgiving sausage rolls with puff pastry, and another batch with Julie's pastry. So I'm going to be chopping some of these now to ensure that we go some and some. So I'll aim to use a third of these now for my Thanksgiving sausage rolls, and I'll go along and cut it with a knife, and I'll put this away for later back in the fridge. When you're using puff pastries, by the way, make sure that it's always straight out of the fridge. Wonderful, so let's get going with the filling now. And here it is, straight out of the fridge. And yet again, I think using your hands to do this job is much easier. So I'm going to be doing a couple of lines, and I will fill a line with my mince mixed. Second egg, and I'll break it into my little dish, and I'll beat it up very quickly. So back to my sausage roll now. I'll spread this evenly so that I got the same amount of meat throughout. And yes, it is going to be a big sausage roll.
It's going to be a beast.
I will just roll it, and I'll leave a little extra, and I'll score a line with my knife again. And apply some of the egg on the edge of your pastry and roll it. And press it so that the edge sits against your worktop, so that it sits nice and tight. I'll do the next one, but I don't need to show you. And I'm now sealing the second sausage roll, and it's perfect size for 2, as you can see. Wonderful. Baking tray lined up with some paper already, and I'll go along and pick them up, and I'll position them inside. But before I proceed, I'm gonna cut them. Now, the length of a sausage roll depends entirely up to you, but standard in the UK, they are 5 to 7 centimeters. So I think I will not break that rule. I'll go something similar. But I'll do diagonally so that they look a little bit prettier.
Sometimes it's nice actually to do some small ones so they're sort of bite size.
In Sicily, there is nothing small.
Well, or if you go to certain well-known UK shops, you get a Whopper, which is almost a meal.
I'll do them all the same size. Wonderful. They're beginning to look like real sausage rolls now.
What, as opposed to your Sicilian version, you mean?
My Sicilian versions are real sausage rolls. And now that I have cut them into individual portions, I'm applying a little bit more egg wash. Of course, you can apply the egg wash before you cut them, but get a little bit messy, egg wash all over your hands. But also like this, you can go inside as well, and there is a little bit of egg inside the sausage roll. So although they are personal choices, do it like this. And puff pastries, once it puffs, has got this wonderful property that it looks amazing, and I really like doing things like this. So I'll just, using a toothpick, I'll go on top and score each one so that by the time it cooks, it will be absolutely beautiful to look at as well. And if you want to get creative, you can go the other way as well. I'll do some and some actually.
What, in case you want to play noughts and crosses, maybe?
Absolutely. If you were to go to Sicily and buy any bread from any bakery, you will find that more often than not they're covered in sesame seeds. So I'm going to continue with that tradition. And I've got some sesame seeds here, and I will be covering each sausage roll with sesame seeds, just to make Julie jealous as well.
They weren't in my nanny's recipe, so sorry, they won't be on mine, everybody.
Well, they are in mine.
Then again, my nanny and granddad were not much into foreign food, were they? It was
No,
British
bless.
all the way.
Yes, but they were lovely.
We won't tell them a story of how we went to visit their grave and got the wrong grave then.
Yes. Maybe we should now. Julie and I went to visit them, and their ashes are buried somewhere in Norwich. But that was a long, long time ago. So we went to visit. We went where we thought they were buried.
We had
Only
conversations, we cleaned the grave, we did it all.
To only find out later when we spoke to Julie's mum that we visited the wrong grave.
It was hard to tell, the writing had worn off, but it was how I remembered it.
We were
That's
there.
the sad thing, but
We were
never
there.
mind, we need to try
It's quite
again.
Anyway, these are ready for the oven next, but what I'll do, I'll wait until a certain lady has finished with her sausage rolls, then I'll do the Thanksgiving sausage rolls so we can put them in the oven all together and economize on the electricity. So over to Julie next.
Back to me. I've got the pastry from the fridge and now I will roll it again. Popped a little more flour on the base and here we go again.
You seem to have a lot more than I did.
Well, you bought yours, dear. You bought yours, dear. You can't blame me for that. What do you think? That about as thick as yours was?
Yeah, actually it's a bit thicker than mine, but it doesn't matter, does it?
It's a bit thicker.
Yeah, that's okay.
Right, I'm happy with that. It's, what do you think, about 5 mil thick maybe?
Yeah, maybe just over.
Similar to what Francesco's was anyway. So I need to cut a piece off for Francesco's Thanksgiving sausage rolls, which I will do now, about there maybe, about a third.
Thank you.
God, we'll have a nice batch of those, won't we? I'm just going to pop that over there, okay, Franco?
Yeah, fine.
Got a bit of a funny shape on that piece. Shall I just give that a little... Oh, got caught up in my herbs again. Never mind, they're going in anyway. I'm using basic sausage meat that we buy in the UK in a pack like this. You could just buy sausages and take the skins off and perhaps mix the meat together, but this is how we use it in the UK. I'm going to be cutting this in half like so. I need it to be pretty much the length of that. So I'm just going to give it a little roll and manoeuvre.
So I had an easy ride with the puff pastry. You have got an easy ride with the mincemeat.
Oh, I haven't finished yet.
Oh.
Now, basic English sausage rolls are pretty much this. You would roll, do the little bit of the wash, and then that would be your sausage roll. However, this is a Christmas sausage roll, so we're adding a few bits to it. I'm sprinkling some extra sage on top of the sausage rolls. I'm adding a sprinkling of the fried onion that Francesco and I prepared earlier. Sage and onion is a really traditional Christmas flavouring, particularly when we stuff our turkeys. So it just felt good to put that in as well. The recipe calls for cranberry sauce, which I would have sworn I had some in the cupboard, but I didn't. Luckily, my lovely husband had purchased some fresh cranberries the other day for one of his recipes, which you'll find somewhere on the page, and I was able to make some cranberry sauce. It was super easy and actually delicious. So lovely, in fact, you could make a dessert with it. Francesca will pop the recipe in the description. Now, I'm going to take a little of my sauce, roll him out of the way for a moment, and pop it as a base. Oh my gosh, it smells yummy. I can't wait to try these ones. The next thing I'll be adding is some orange zests, just a little.
Is this to make it Christmassy again?
Absolutely. For me, orange smell is very Christmassy. Now, obviously you could have mixed your sausage meat with these various ingredients together, not the cranberry sauce, that needs to go on the pastry, but I just thought it was quite nice to put it together on the pastry. Now I'll add some brie, just very thin slices, which I will pop on top. In fact, I think I'll pop them on there. I don't want the cheese to ooze out. Now if I'm going to do them approximately so big, I might even do a little mark. Then I'll make sure I have a slice in each of the sausage rolls.
Oh, great idea.
Because I'm a genius. Not too much, obviously, otherwise it will ooze out everywhere. Now I'm going to pop my sausage meat back, along with the rest of the ingredients. Lovely. And we're ready to roll. Now I'll pop a little of the egg wash there. Unfortunately, my genius idea, perhaps I'll do this so I can just see.
You're so genius after all.
I was so genius that it's going to get tucked in, but there we go. And I think I will finish that there. Gentle squeeze and roll. This bit is the same for everybody, regardless where you're making them. Italy or here, dear.
Okay.
I'll now make the other one and then I'll pop them on the tray with Francesco's. So I finished both of the rolls. As you can see, they're looking beautiful. I'm cutting mine on the worktop, so I don't cut my liner paper, unlike my husband. And then we pop them on the tray. And I'll egg wash them like he did as well. Now I'm going to...
You want a toothpick or not?
No, I'm going to do a little bit more of a defined cut, because that's what my nanny used to do. And no sesame seeds for me, just the egg wash like this. You can see Francesco's not English. I was always taught to make sure you cover all the pastry. You slopped yours on top and just let it dribble down the sides, but I'm covering all of mine equally.
Yeah, mine is more of a rustic one.
Ah.
Listen, are you trying to pick a fight?
No, never.
Well, it doesn't sound
not
like
over sausage
it.
rolls. My way is a little bit more laborious, I will give you that. This has taken me a good minute or so just to coat them all in egg wash. It'll be worth it in the end. Now, one thing I should mention, I didn't add any salt because the sausage meat and the cheese can be quite salty, so I don't want to overdo it. I am now going to just pop a little black pepper on top with Francesco's gadget that he loves. Fab. So that's those two done. And now we're going to make the Thanksgiving ones, yeah?
And I am back, and this Thanksgiving recipe I think is the best of both worlds, because I will be using some sausage meat which is already seasoned, but also we will have a combination of the Basque pastry and the Jewish pastry. So I'll start with the sausage meat in there, and I'll complement with some Thanksgiving ingredients. So I've chopped a small apple in small pieces and it goes in. These are dry cranberries, which I've chopped also in small pieces, and they will go in. It is a Thanksgiving sausage roll after all. These are chopped pecan nuts. Again, they will give a very buttery flavor, but complement incredibly well with both the cranberry and the apple. So in they go. So that is the extent of my fruit, and I will be adding some seasoning now. So I've chopped a little sage, but also if you cannot get hold of fresh sage, you can use the dry stuff. And lastly, I will add a little thyme here. Come back you. Again, a combination which will be very, very good with the sausage meat and also with the fruit I've added. I should point out that this recipe is something that I have put together. It's not necessarily a standard recipe, as I said, for Thanksgiving.
I don't think they do sausage rolls on Thanksgiving.
No.
No.
Okay. So, but it would be interesting to see how it compares with the other two. Like Julie, I'm not going to be putting any salt as there is already salt in the sausage meat, but I will put some pepper. And using my hands, of course, I'll mix everything together. By the way, I did have a little of my pork sausage mix left, and I will make a pasta with that tonight. So I will actually post a little short like I did before to show you what it looks like. But this is ready, and I can crack on with the filling of the pastry now. I'll put a little bit more flour on the worktop, and I'll start with the pastry kindly donated to me by Mrs. Tortellino. And I'll put my puff pastry next to it as well.
Oh, look at that. It's like a flea in an elephant's back compared to mine, look.
And I'll start with the puff pastry, and I'll fill it like I did with the Sicilian sausage rolls. And I'm going to be very generous now because this is a bigger piece of pastry, so I can put more meat. I got a little bit jealous when Julie showed me the size of her sausage roll, so I decided to make some big ones myself. Perfect, look, I'm managing to do it all.
Lovely.
I've got none left.
Wow, they will be whoppers, won't they?
They will be whoppers. Do you understand what whoppers means?
Oh, is that that's a British phrase, everybody. Sorry about
Whoppers,
that.
big.
It's a whopper, big.
I was planning to put the onion with the mix earlier, but I saw what Julie did, and I thought that's a good idea. So I'll put it on top of my sausage meat now, not at the bottom, just to be different. But of course you can mix it in, doesn't really matter, it will end up in there. And I'll do the puff pastry one first, so just like before, a little turn, egg wash, and on its side. Do ensure that you go a good amount of flour on the worktop, otherwise the pastry will get stuck. But very gently, just like Julie did, I'll roll it. Shall I cut this, Julie?
Yeah, I think it might be an idea to cut those.
I think there is a little bit too much pastry, so I'm just going to be squaring it up now. Egg wash once again, and roll it. No different to before now. I'll cut them into sizes. Now this one is quite big, so I think I'm going to be a little bit more careful not to go mad. So I'll do them at this size so that they are manageable.
Unlike mine, you mean?
Unlike yours, yes. Julie's sausage rolls are like one meal.
Mine are ready for when the boys come at Christmas and they devour them, so
Yes.
they'll disappear quickly.
My daughter Gabriella is pescatarian. She doesn't eat meat, so she uses vegetarian sausage meat to make sausage rolls. You can do the same here. If you can exactly copy either Julie's recipe or my recipe or the Thanksgiving recipe and use the vegetarian sausage meat, and that would be just as delicious.
Yeah, to be fair, actually, we've all tried them at Christmas and they were really similar. Not much difference at all in flavour.
Yeah, she's not here, otherwise we would have made her do it.
Oh, we would
as
have
well.
made her do it, wouldn't we? That is actually her job at Christmas. She comes home and makes sausage rolls.
So, like before, I'm applying the egg wash on top of each sausage roll now, and they'll be ready in a little while. And we are nearly there now, and just done all of the brushing and the lining as well. And as it is a Thanksgiving sausage roll, I'm using some pumpkins now and the pumpkin seeds, and I will position them on top of each sausage roll so that they match with the theme of Thanksgiving. Okay, so we're going to be putting everything in the oven together. 180 degrees, it's a fan oven. I think even if you've got a normal conventional oven, just slightly higher, maybe 190, they'll go in for about 20 to 25 minutes, enough for the meat to cook, of course, but also we want the golden crust on top, so we will see you in about 25 minutes or maybe half an hour. And we are back, and they've been resting now for a good 5 minutes, and 25 minutes was the perfect amount of time, but we had to swap them around because the top ones were golden and so on. So you'll have to judge it based on your oven, of course. So Julie's arranging them in a tray now, and she's actually moving the Thanksgiving ones.
I tend to do this so that they can cool nicely and then they crisp up. There's been a little bit of spillage of the mincemeat, etc., oozing out of the bottom. So if you leave them sitting in that to cool down, it makes the bases a little bit soggy. So and nobody wants a soggy bottom.
No.
So I'm popping one on a cooling tray.
But how are we going to distinguish them in a couple of weeks' time?
Because, my dear, when I freeze them, I will then put them in different containers and label them so we know which is which.
I've got a better idea.
Oh, yeah.
You wait.
Oh, lovely. I'll continue doing this then. Dare I look?
There you go, look. We got the
Oh,
American
sweet.
flag, Italian flag, and the British flag.
I'm glad you remembered what it was. Somebody's got too much time in their hands, I think.
No.
No?
No. I was doing this this morning when she was on the fast lane asleep.
Ah,
Would you like to see the other side? Huh?
go on then. Rolling with thanks.
Ready?
Right. Ciao Bella roll. And keep calm and roll on. Like that one. That one's a good
finally
one.
the penny has dropped.
I like that one. Right, I'll go first. British ones are these ones.
Italy and Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving.
America.
So do we get to try them?
Of course.
Absolutely.
I'll tell you what. You try mine and I'll try yours.
I want to try them all.
Of course. I'll go on then. You go first. And we'll go together. How's that?
Shall we go for a knife?
Here's a bowl.
Lovely. Right. This is the British one. British-ish one. Oh, actually, I want to make sure. There we go.
Oh, I see you're checking.
Yeah,
to see if
make
they're
sure that
cooked.
we've got all of the bits. No, making sure that we've got some of the cranberries. You ready?
Not bad. They're lovely. Nice and sweet.
I'm having the other piece, aren't you?
Julie's having dinner. So am I.
No, lovely. Nice and fruity. The cheese is not overbearing, actually, is it? It's just gently in there, making it all quite creamy. Lovely.
And they're still warm. And I always say that food, when it's warm, is not at its best, especially this type of food. So once it cools down, even better.
Okay,
off to Sicily.
Let's do a Sicilian one.
Oh, this is a fast, everybody. Ready? Steady. I'm not saying anything.
All right.
All right, go
They are
on, you go
lovely.
first.
They're not overpoweringly Italian. The flavours are quite subtle, so it does still taste very much like a sausage roll. I'll give him that. We'll call it a sausage roll.
I would got only one word for it. Delicious. Let's go to the Thanksgiving ones and then we will let you go. There you go, you have the bigger one.
Obviously. I've got some nut.
They're lovely as well. I think they're all lovely. The Thanksgiving ones are totally different to yours, but the cranberry really brings everything to life. Delicious. I'm really pleased with all of them. I think.
And I have to say, actually, having spent all that time, have I got pastry all over me?
No, you don't. You're good.
Having spent all that time making the pastry, in all honesty, the bought stuff is just lovely too. So, don't know if I'd worry.
Depends
a
how
bit,
much time
Gemma.
you've got, but they're all delicious. I would call it a draw, most probably, between Sicily and Great Britain. However, if you're making them and you're not quite sure, make mine. They're better.
Typical.
Do you want to show you what you've done while you were cooking?
We had some cranberry left over, and so I decided to mix it with some leftover mincemeat that I made my mince pies with last week. That's sweet mincemeat. And I made some more mince pies because you can never have too many mince pies. So I'll pop them in the oven now and they'll be ready for Christmas. I'll freeze them and they'll be ready for Christmas. So
Zero waste philosophy.
waste
as
not,
always.
want not.
Indeed. Well, we're done. Thank you, Julie, for your help.
Thank you for cooking all these lovely things, yeah.
And thank you for being such a good loser.
Ooh.
Arrivederci. If you make your own sausage rolls, I'd be interested to see what recipe you use, or if you make any of those three
Or
recipes.
keep it simple like,
Keep it simple, yes.
like we normally do.
Let me know. I'd love to hear from you. And of course, if you have not subscribed to the channel and you like what you're seeing, subscribe. It's free. It will always be free. And I would love to hear from you. Arrivederci, grazie, and as always, buon appetito. Ciao.